Hello and a big welcome. And today we have a slightly uncomfortable topic, and that is dealing with discomfort. And it's interesting. The reason I've picked this topic today is because I had a really interesting experience with this just the other day, which I want to talk to you about and share with you and see if you've had something similar and look at how we can manage discomfort. Because as I was saying in the intro, a lot of us in this modern world, we don't have to put up with much discomfort. I talk to even just my parents' generation, even one generation ago, and when my mum was growing up, she said she constantly was hungry. There was no snacking between meals, and it was in post-war England, so there wasn't a lot of food around. So they tended to live with, and she's living in England, so she lived with a constant hunger and also cold, because obviously clothes weren't what they are now. There was sickness. There's all sorts of things a lot of things that we just don't have to deal with in our modern society, which is wonderful. I got to say, I don't want to go back to 1940s England, but what I think it possibly has done for a lot of us is that we get we've got in our minds this idea that life should always be comfortable. And I think this is also backed up by the medical system, because when we have a pain or something does go wrong with our bodies, our first response is we go to the doctor and we get a pill. We get something that we can instantly take a Panadol or a Nurofen or whatever it is and remove that pain. And that tends to be the solution, the first call solution for a lot of when you go to the doctor. If I've got a pain, take a pill, take the pain away, and you should be good to go. And I think that's created a kind of underlying idea in our society in general that we shouldn't have to put up with discomfort. And so when we do feel discomfort and it doesn't stop, or perhaps when you, especially like, here I am, I'm talking to you, you're all high achievers, you're all out there doing stuff in your life and pushing forward. So when you're challenging those comfort zones and putting yourself in situations that are really uncomfortable, there's probably a level at which your brain's going, hey, I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to do this. This isn't right. And I think that's really important to acknowledge that sometimes discomfort is always about how your brain is interpreting a situation. It's actually not about the situation itself, because exactly the same situation can cause extreme discomfort in one person and a complete in another person, or even within your own self. So I'll share it. This is what brought this on was an experience I had the other day. So if you don't know, I went through a pretty rough time a couple of years ago. I had an accident on my mountain bike. I slammed into the dirt at 40 k's an hour, gave myself whiplash and quite a lot of physical injury, but also I had been pushing very hard in life and at that time, and there was a lot of stress going on. And so I think it was a big catalyst. It sort of pushed me into a time where basically it was like burnout. And so that was a very fearful, very stressful, very traumatic time in my life. So that event, that losing control on the bike and smashing into the dirt kind of triggered this big, long, pretty awful, painful period in my life. And interestingly, the other day, now back then, like not long ago, if you'd asked me, are you ever going to get back on a bike again? I would have said no. So, brain's saying no, that is way beyond, we're too fearful, too worried about it, can't do that. I've got myself past that. So with consistent working on mindset and using the Prava techniques, I've got to a point where I'm perfectly happy back on a bike. I can scoot down hills, and I'm more careful now. I am of an age where I should not be flying down hills like I did when I was 20, and I'm aware of that, but I can now enjoy the feeling and be back on the bike and having fun. But interestingly, the other day, the bike, riding a mountain bike down a hill quite fast, you're going to kick around, there's skips and jumps, and my brain interprets that now as perfectly fine. I can control it and I actually have a lot of fun with it. But something happened. I hit a root or something and the bike skipped in a slightly different way, or something happened, and I got the biggest shot of adrenaline, like really massive shot of adrenaline, over response from my brain. Like it wasn't that bad. It skipped and I just missed a tree on the other side, but I've done that many, many times. So something about that motion, something about that particular incident, suddenly my brain triggers absolute fear, and I was so full of adrenaline, and I could recognize that that really gave me a fright. So maybe you've been in that situation where you've been going along in life and doing something. Maybe it's in your business, maybe it's in a relationship, maybe it's in a sport or something like that. And suddenly you've had the biggest kind of hit of fear, and it doesn't seem logical. You think, why is that triggered so much in me? And that amount of discomfort has come through. Now, at that moment, that's one of those pivotal moments in your journey to success, to contentment, to happiness, is how you deal with that discomfort. Whether it's that big hit of adrenaline like I got, which was whew, or maybe it's even just those really awkward, horrible feelings. Like if you know something you've got to do, you got to pick up the phone and call someone, or there's something you need to do. Maybe you need to log into one of your websites and you don't want to know what's happened. You don't want to see the stats, perhaps. I don't know. Like there's something that's holding you back and making you feel really uncomfortable. And recognize that that's when your amygdala has been triggered. It's connected up with a memory and said, oh, whatever's happening right now, that is not safe. I don't like this. You need to run. You need to get out of there, or you need to fight. And so it's set off all that chemical triggers, and it's put you into that fight or flight, maybe quite extreme, or maybe just to a level where you're fearful of doing whatever it is you're about to do. You're feeling really, really uncomfortable about it. Or it might be, if you've had an injury before, where you might, if you feel a twinge, let's say you hurt your leg, if you feel a twinge of pain in your right leg, if you hurt your right leg and years down the track you feel a twinge of pain in your right leg, your brain might still go, oh, and you might feel that twinge of pain a lot more than if that same twinge of pain had been in your left leg, where your brain goes, meh, no, I can ignore that. I don't care about that. It should be fine. Whereas the twinge of pain in your right leg that has had a trauma before, your brain interprets as, oh, this could be bad. I know I've been here before. I don't like this. So it's first of all recognizing that those moments of discomfort will come, and that the level at which you feel uncomfortable is not necessarily logical. It can be your brain's response based on your previous experiences and making connections that are totally not logical, not in your conscious thinking mind, but in that deep brain where it's just making those scans of the world constantly to say, am I safe or am I not safe? So you've triggered into not safe. So there's 3 responses that you can have, and 3 ways that you can deal with that discomfort, so that you're retraining your brain to say, hey, that actually isn't the appropriate response anymore. You don't need to do that. And this is where this process is of, and sometimes that's hard because you can be feeling really uncomfortable at that moment. And this is why we don't want to be afraid of discomfort. Discomfort is just a trigger to you to say, hey, there's a connection here that is actually not constructive anymore. So I do want to break that connection. I don't want to be this afraid of this, whatever it is. Okay, so number 1, first of all, you can just accept the discomfort. You just say, all right, and you can recognize the process that I just went through just then, getting your logical brain, rather than allowing that deep brain fear to come through into your upper thinking, your conscious thinking, and freak you out at the conscious level, being able to, at the conscious level, just go, okay, I know what's happening. I realize something's connected there. And the first thing you do is actually relax, purposely flop your body, take a deep breath and just completely relax your body. And that's starting to signal, because your brain will then get a bit confused. It'll say, oh, well, I'm having this really frightened response, but the whole conscious mind and the body are telling me you're relaxed. So it starts to weaken that link. It sends a new message to your amygdala to say, oh, that response, maybe it wasn't appropriate. Maybe I don't need to be that afraid of this. So having that acceptance, relaxing your body physically and as much mentally as you can, going into your powerful thinking, all right, this is going to pass. It's just like I've just drunk a really strong cup of coffee. I'm going to freak out for a little bit. My body's going to be maybe having a high heartbeat and doing all those sort of things for a little bit, but it's okay. I know those chemicals will pass. I just got to ride through this bit, and I can accept, all right, yes, sometimes life throws me some discomfort and I can handle it. So that's the other thing that goes around in my head. If you're feeling uncomfortable, relax, take a deep breath and smile and say, I can handle this. And just keep repeating. If there's any affirmation you can have at that moment is, I can handle this. I can get through it. I can handle this. And so that's one way of doing it. And maybe that might be enough for you to just move through that discomfort, recognize that it's just a reaction of your brain, something that's got crossed, and it's okay. And your conscious mind can move you through that process. The other thing that you can do while you're at it, instead of just accepting that response and riding through it, you can actually start laying down new connections to modify. All right, next time this happens, brain, yes, you've still probably got that memory sitting there and you're going to still keep accessing that a little bit. And I'll deal with that each time it comes up. But the other thing I'm going to do is start putting in new memories that I want you to access as well. So when that happens, not only will I be looking at that memory, I'm also going to be looking at, all right, well, think about the things that could go right. So let's say you're thinking you've had a bit of a freak out because you're about to pick up the phone or you're about to do something that feels really uncomfortable. Think about what would this feel like if this all went completely right? How would it be if the person I talked to just was perfect. The conversation went exactly how I wanted it to go. I made the sale, or I sorted out the problem, or whatever. And the person on the other line was totally happy. And so I'll create that scenario in your mind. So say for me on the bike, I actually relaxed and I started thinking, hey, this is going to be a great ride. I love this ride. I started actually remembering times when I'd had a ball. I loved going down that particular hill and done it perfectly and enjoyed and had a laugh at the bottom. So I started forward thinking and grabbing onto the memories of when this all turned out beautifully, perfectly, wonderfully. And so you start modifying that memory. So it gives your little amygdala something else to draw on. And in that, the amygdala and the hippocampus are talking to each other. Hippocampus is about memory and amygdala is about, okay, how am I interpreting this situation? So we're feeding it some good stuff to say, hey, not only the bad stuff sometimes happen, also a heap of good stuff also happens from you doing this. So it starts to balance that out. Same with if you've got pain. If you find you've got a big pain in your right leg and that really bothers you and it's starting to freak you out because your brain is drawing on memories of what that pain means. We can also you force your brain to think about your left leg and think about how comfortable your left leg feels. So instead of focusing on the pain here in the right leg only and focusing all that energy there, you start focusing on other bits of your body that actually feel really comfortable, perfectly fine. You can feel the material so you start focusing. See how we're starting to diversify. We're spreading that focus and stopping our brain getting all narrow focused and focusing on the broader picture, the good stuff, the stuff that's comfortable. Then the third thing that you can do, so if you want to take this, so that's number 1 and 2. The third thing you can do, which is what I do, I love doing because I like to challenge myself. So the third thing you do, if you want to take this up to the next step and take it up a notch, what you do is actually completely flip it and turn that fear into absolute exhilaration. So when I had that bump on the bike and I felt the adrenaline shot, I shook myself off. I relaxed. I went through that modification. I thought about all the wonderfulness of a great ride. And then I went, boom, I'm going hard. Like, I'm going to actually step up this and enjoy it. I actually started riding harder and really focusing on how much fun this was, how exhilarating this was. And I actually focused on how the adrenaline in my body right now is fun, because actually exhilaration and fear, those two things, are basically chemically the same. It's only about how your brain interprets it. So I could get fearful and pull back and tense, or I could get exhilarated and excited and have an absolute ball with it, have fun with it. So I made the decision in my brain, I'm going to actually take this further and almost like really walk into the fear and flip it into exhilaration. And so you can do that. If you're on a bike, that's pretty easy, because you're riding and there's all this stuff going on, and your brain it doesn't have time to argue with you. If you're not in that situation, say it's a phone call or it's something you need to do and you're feeling really uncomfortable about it, what you can do is just get excited. The best way is to dance, is to literally get up and move your body and do a dance, like go nuts, dance like no one's watching, put on some loud music and actually get your body, get all that adrenaline and be exhilarated, be over the top excited about it. Get excited rather than fearful. And it's going to confuse your brain. It's going to break that connection. It's going to say, oh, that thing and this feeling of adrenaline is actually, oh, that's really exciting. This is fun. And it's really flipping that around. So next time you get it, your brain doesn't automatically go to fear. It actually has a choice to go to fear, or it could go to exhilaration and have fun with it. So yeah, the best way, I've actually done that at 2 a.m. I've got up when, you're woken up with a bad dream or with something going on and you're full of adrenaline. I know I'm not going to be able to sleep after that. So I can do the relaxation and see if that works. But it would be very amusing to see me at 2 a.m, headphones on, just dancing wildly. I love Megan Trainor or Taylor Swift or some like really hypo, really happy dance music to just completely switch that brain around to, hey, well, I'm having a really good time. And you can convince that brain. So what this is all doing is changing our brain's interpretation of discomfort. So especially if you've got into some bad habits, and I know I had got into some bad habits of listening to my brain and my brain starting to always interpret discomfort as a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's a fantastic thing, because that's what gets you motivated in life. That's what gets you to do stuff that you wouldn't normally do. If you can flip it around and make it into something exciting and challenging and fun and something that you're actually looking forward to the outcome of, you give yourself the ability to actually then, interestingly, the more you accept discomfort and face it and walk into it, the less discomfort is in your life, because then you interpret that discomfort as actually fun and exciting and something that you're looking forward to almost, rather than being afraid of and running away from. So this week, guys, let's see what you can notice yourself. Let's see what you can do. Notice your discomfort. Notice those times when you do feel that pang of either adrenaline or fear, when you go to do something that you've maybe been putting off for a long time, or maybe it just comes up. I mean, you might have the same thing. Sometimes you might just have, boom, hit by some adrenaline or something. So notice those things and do those 3 steps. Do your number 1, accept, complete flop, let it come. Number 2, modify your response and think of the great things that will happen if you get through this discomfort and actually step up and face it and go through. And third thing, turn it around, make it fun, exhilaration, dance like no one's watching. So I'd love to hear how you go with that, and what you achieve by starting to reinterpret discomfort and just actually allowing that into your life and accepting it as part of our journey. We're all going to face discomfort, And it's up to us. We can decide how we're going to interpret it. So have fun this week. And I'll see you. Actually, I've got 2 weeks. We're going away. Speaking of fun, I'm going on holiday. Yay! You're going to head out. So we won't be on for Prava for the next 2 weeks, but then I'll be back live after that. So I'll see you then. Okay, bye.